You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode number 208.3, our NCAA Tournament preview with Grant Shouse.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Menkels.
Welcome, college basketball fans. We are here today with our IU guy, Grant Shouse, to talk about the NCAA Tournament. Grant, of course, is an IU fan first, but if there is a basketball game he can get in front of his eyes, he gets it in front of his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
So he knows about, I'm going to guess, have you seen every single team in this tournament?
I wouldn't say I've seen every team, but I know a little bit about every team.
Because, I used to make it a point when I covered college basketball like you're doing right now, that to see every team in the tournament at least once. And if I haven't seen them when their conference championship game comes, by the way, that's how I discovered Stephen Curry and Davidson back in the day.
That's how I discovered Jack Golke last year.
And I kept saying to everybody, watch out for Davidson, watch out for Davidson. And they almost made it to the Final Four.
I said that with Oakland last year.
Yeah, exactly. And you study it the way I used to. So Here we go. We're going to talk first about the South region. We talked about this a little, disappointed that the only team from Indiana is Purdue, so we will save them for last. The winners of the first two rounds advance to Atlanta in the South region. The number one seed in the South is the number one overall seed, Auburn, which looked like the best team for most of the season. A little flailing down the stretch, but still had a really good season. Also in this bracket, number 2 seed is Michigan State, 3 is Iowa State, 4 Texas A&M. The 5th seed is a Michigan team that's really good of late. We also have Louisville, Creighton, Ole Miss, Marquette, New Mexico. Which teams could you see advancing to the Final Four in San Antonio?
Out of that region, I think obviously the biggest eye-opener is Auburn, just because they're Auburn. They're literally the number one overall seed for a reason. They're a really good team. Janai Broome is the real deal, player of the year in the country. I think when you're filling out your bracket and you want to look at the upset in that round is the 7-10 game with Marquette and New Mexico. New Mexico has a guy, you haven't heard of him. You'll hear his name this week. Nelly Jr. Joseph. Why it's Junior before Joseph, I don't know. But Nelly Jr. Joseph is a really good player, and New Mexico's playing really good basketball right now. They got knocked out of their conference tournament. I'm actually surprised they're a 10 seed. I really would have thought that we would have seen them on the 7, 8, 9 line, but they're a 10 seed. I think they're really underseeded, in my opinion. I would look for them in your upset if you haven't filled out your bracket yet. I'd keep an eye out for them. Marquette has kind of stumbled lately. Lost at the buzzer to St. John's a couple weeks ago. Lost in the Big East tournament to St. John's just this past week. I really think that's going to be a good game. That's one of the biggest eye-openers. I would pick Auburn to come out of that region.
This bracket feels the chalkiest of all of them, which means it probably won't be. Because that's usually how it goes. I will say UC San Diego is a team to watch. The Tritons looked really good in that conference tournament.
But Michigan has looked really good as of late, too.
They really have. Very impressive. One of the most balanced teams with a good point guard, and those are the kinds of teams that do well in the NCAA tournament. I could see why someone would take Michigan to go to the Final Four. I could see why someone would take Michigan State to go to the Final Four.
Could you imagine if we got a Michigan State, Michigan Elite Eight?
It would be great.
It'd be awesome. In Atlanta, I know that's far for those fans to travel, and you would almost rather that be the Midwest regional where it's going to be at Lucas Oil Stadium where, it's in Indiana, but those fans would travel. They wouldn't have as far of a travel. But for people who don't know, the number one seed in the region gets to pick where their regional site is. So Auburn wants to pick Atlanta because it's closer for their fans to get to.
Right.
And then it becomes the process of elimination, and that 4th 1 seed is left with what's left there. So Houston they're the 1 seed in their bracket. I know we'll talk about them later, but they're the team that got kind of stuck with Indianapolis because they were the 4th 1 seed, I believe.
By the way, Michigan starts their NCAA tournament in Denver kind of a bad draw for them. I'm not quite sure why, except for maybe pre-Big Ten, why Purdue was a 4 and Michigan was a 5. That didn't make much sense to me.
The biggest question to me, why is Louisville an 8?
That's the other one I was going to say. Auburn might want to look out.
I know. I think Auburn, believe it or not, as being the number 1 overall seed, is, I think, maybe the most vulnerable 1 seed in the tournament.
Yeah. By the way,
that's usually how it's been, I feel like.
By the way, these number 1 seeds are some of them are going to be the favorites going into this, but would you be surprised if there are no number 1 seeds in the Final Four?
No, I would not be at all shocked.
That's the kind of tournament this is going to be, I think.
That's only happened a handful of times I think it's only happened one time.
Once
ever.
That all did, but there have been a few times that none have. And I think this is one of those years that could happen.
That was not the case last year. You had 2 1 seeds in the Final Four with Purdue and UConn.
All right, so your pick in the South is Auburn. We move to the West. Another SEC team is the number 1 seed. That is Florida. Also in this bracket, also in this region, is Rick Pitino's St. John's Red Storm.
Yeah. Is
the 2 seed. Texas Tech, the 3 seed. A very hot Maryland, a very good Maryland team, is the 4 seed. Memphis is the 5. The 6 seed is Missouri. The 7 is Kansas. You also have Arkansas in there. A upstart Drake team gets to play a regional game against Missouri. And Grand Canyon, also a very good team, and they play all their games online.
Really? Didn't know that.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me, though.
Grand Canyon, yeah. It's the online university.
Yeah. So all their games are online.
Maryland will be traveling online to play Grand Canyon in this game.
You look at this region, Greg. Look at the coaches of these teams in that national championship.
Oh, I forgot to mention UConn.
Yeah.
The 2-time defending national champion.
Yeah. UConn with Dan Hurley, of course, going to be a Hall of Famer. Bill Self at Kansas is the 7th seed. John Calipari at Arkansas. Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino and Calipari have that rivalry, and you could be eyeing that as a second-round matchup. I hope we get that. We'll see. I think Kansas may be a little better than maybe a little better in Arkansas.
Of course, Flory Badunga from right around here is a part of that team.
Love Flory, great guy.
Yep.
Here's my biggest shocker in this bracket, Greg, is that I think Florida obviously is going to beat their 16 seed opponent, Norfolk State. I think UConn's going to beat Oklahoma. I picked UConn to beat Florida in the second round. I think UConn just has that tournament mentality. I mean, they have guys that have been there the last 2 years that have cut down nets. I don't think UConn's going to win
that Florida team, man.
But that Florida team's good.
They look good,
but I think when it comes down to it, I think UConn could win a second-round game over them.
I can see why people are picking Florida to win the championship because
too.
They look really good. By the way, so does Maryland. Maryland's
really good right now.
We used to talk. The great thing about college basketball when I was growing up is you would talk about the future of the program. Look at these freshmen. Look at these sophomores. But now you have no idea who's going to be there.
You can't do that anymore.
I was going to say, man, Maryland is going to be good, but who knows? Drake, Missouri, I think that's maybe a little too popular of a pick for Drake.
It is.
But that is a good team, man.
That's a really good team.
I think they're going to win that game.
I picked Drake to win that, but the problem is with Drake is I think they can win a game or two, but when they run into a team that's more athletic, like a St. John's or a Kansas, even Arkansas, they're going to get beat.
By the way, say what you want about Rick Pitino. That guy can coach.
That guy, and you lived down there close to Louisville when he was the coach.
I covered him while he was the coach.
Yeah. And
he didn't always have the best teams, but he had the best – or he didn't always have the best players, but he had the best teams.
And I think he's a terrific guy too. He will never turn down an interview. I can tell you that. He does love media. He does love. He's a media attention lover.
I will say, great guy is not the word I would use, but
I've
very
never met
friendly,
him.
Affable guy.
Yeah, I've never met him, but I'm going off of what I've seen.
I'm just talking about what we know. Anyway, so your pick in the West. Then, are you going with UConn? Do you think they can make the full run?
I don't think so. I think they could run into a conference opponent in St. John's in the Elite Eight. Maybe a shocker to some people. I think UConn is poised for another deep run. I don't think they can win a national championship. I like St. John's coming out of that region.
I have a hard time. I still don't think I've settled on who I'm going to pick.
That's the toughest one to pick from.
Luckily, no one cares what I think. But I really like Maryland there, and I really like St. John's as well. But Florida, man, they look so good.
Yeah.
They look so good in the SEC tournament. Sometimes that can be a mirage, but they look big and athletic and strong and like a team that can win in March. We move to the East where Duke is number 1. Some health question marks, of course, with Cooper Flagg, which may make that a kind of a more wide open bracket than it normally might have been. Also in the East, which, by the way, I didn't mention that the West region there is they advanced to San Francisco at the Chase Center, and I didn't mention that. I probably should have.
It's okay.
Well, I think I'll be forgiven. All right. So now we move to the East region, and again, Duke has some health questions, so that might make this region a bit more wide open. The East region will the champions or the winners from the first 2 rounds. Man, I'm just stumbling on myself. Will advance to Seton Hall University, the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, where some of the all-time great NCAA tournament games have been played, some of those classics. And Duke is the number 1 seed. They are in a bracket with Baylor, another team that's won a recent national championship, more recently than Duke, actually, and Mississippi State.
Indianapolis.
That's right. And also in that bracket, an Alabama program that suddenly knows how to get to Final Fours. Wisconsin, with a team that's looked really good of late. Arizona and Oregon are also in this bracket. Oregon, a nice 5 seed.
Yeah.
They were 8th in the Big Ten. IU is 9th. They're a 5 seed. Interesting.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. I think IU deserved to be in based on their resume, but if you're not one of the top 25 to 30 teams, you don't get to complain about when the brackets come out. BYU, a dangerous team also in this bracket. St. Mary's is a dangerous team also in this one. Who do you like coming out of the East? Who are the teams you could see advancing to the East, and do you have a team that might be the surprise in this region?
You mentioned the health concerns with Duke surrounding Cooper Flagg, where don't know if he's going to play. Sprained his ankle in the ACC tournament.
Don't know if he would risk anything because of
he's going to be the number 1 pick in the
him.
draft. Yeah, he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. We know that. It's unanimous.
Yep. Nope.
The other thing no one's talking about is Alabama's health concerns. Their big guy, Grant Nelson, who's kind of like their Cooper Flagg, really, I wouldn't say tore up his knee, but he injured his knee. That's the word I'm looking for. He injured his knee in the SEC tournament. He was going to the doctor today on Monday when we're recording this to see a specialist. I haven't heard anything of his status and whether or not he'll be playing. That could play a factor. If Flagg and Nelson aren't playing for their teams, for Duke or Alabama, I don't know that we could get the 1 or 2 in the Final Four there. I don't know it's going to be that much of a chalk Final Four. My upset in this region, I like Akron upset Arizona. I watched that Akron team the other night. They were down 18 at one point and came back to win it. I also wouldn't sleep on St. Mary's and Wisconsin as well, so we'll see.
I'm going to say even if Alabama and Duke are healthy, there are several teams I could see getting through this. And I'm talking about a team like Liberty, a team like Oregon. I think Oregon, again, I've talked about this with you a couple of times because they played IU of late. When your point guard is the best player on the court, and Jackson Shelstead will be often in this tournament, you got a chance to win. Again, Akron, would you be surprised if they make a long run in this tournament? I wouldn't be surprised at all. Not. BYU, VCU. I mean, I'm saying every team, there's not a team in this bracket above the 11 seed that I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt, neither one of those would surprise me at all.
Yeah, VCU was their conference tournament champions in the Atlantic 10. And they're an 11 seed. I would not be at all shocked if it's not like 2011 where they make a run deep into the tournament again. I think if Cooper Flagg is healthy for that Duke team, I think they come out of that region. But if he's not playing, I don't think he does. I think if Flagg's not healthy and Nelson is for Alabama, I'll take Alabama. But for now, I'm going to pick Duke to come out of that region.
Give me St. Mary's to come out of that region as a Cinderella, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they lost in the first round. By the way, one year in 2004, I picked Old Dominion to go to the Final Four. And they lost in the first round to Butler, which went to the Final Four, by the way, in overtime. And Butler ended up in the Final Four.
So
and that was an 8-9 game.
So that was in 2010.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Exactly. The first year, the year that they almost won the national championship. The second year.
The missed half-court shot. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, still a heartbreaker.
And also, I picked Old Dominion because I thought the Colonial was really good that year.
It was.
And VCU was in the play-in as an 11 seed and made a run as well. So
yeah.
My theory was exactly right, but the execution was exactly wrong.
Here's what I'll say about the play-in game in Dayton is that almost every year it seems, this is a stat, this is not what I think, this is a stat, I can't remember exactly. Every year there is a team from that tournament or from that play-in that goes on, wins their play-in game, and then wins their first round game. So who do you want to pick? Do you want to pick North Carolina, San Diego State, Texas, Xavier? One of those teams, if history is right, tells us they're poised to win at least 2 games in the NCAA tournament. And a couple times there have been teams that have gone from the first 4 to the final 4, a la UCLA in 2021 and VCU. And UCLA came this close to going to the national championship.
Yes, they did. Should have.
Took a half-court shot.
Miracle shot, that's right.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
One of the great shots, maybe the great shot in NCAA tournament history.
Maybe. And you could argue, we could talk about that. We could name so many moments, but you could mention the Chris Jenkins shot at the buzzer to win the national championship.
Of course, that's probably
IU bias, Keith Smart's shot to win the national championship. That may not have been as big as Chris Jenkins, but there's some big shots. That's why this tournament. That's why this tournament is. It's awesome.
So great.
That's why it's awesome.
College basketball has completely changed over the last 5 years, but this is still,
the best.
I'll just say it this way: my in-laws care. They don't watch a college basketball game all year, but they love this tournament, and for good reason. It's so good. All year, I haven't really paid attention to college basketball except for recently in the tournaments and the Big Ten. I love the Big Ten. But I do believe the best team in the country is in the Midwest region. Number 1 seed is Houston. Also in this region is Tennessee is the number 2 seed. Kentucky, a little overrated at the number 3 seed.
I agree.
The 4 seed is Purdue. The 5 is Clemson. Illinois is a very good 6 seed in this one. UCLA is the 7. A lot of teams in this one. How do you look at this one? And do you see a team that could be a surprise coming through this?
High Point. I think High Point is. I'm not saying it as a joke.
No. I agree with you.
like the way Purdue has kind of played recently, struggled against USC the other night, and then was, thrown around like a rag doll against Michigan. Purdue has not played well as of late, and I don't know if it's just the season's getting long. The thing is that if Purdue wins that matchup, I would not be surprised if they don't go back to the Elite Eight. With the path that they have, I think they can beat Clemson. Or Clemson could get upset.
Exactly.
They're playing McNeese State. That's kind of that could be the play-in for who the next IU coach is.
That's right. That's right.
That's the first thing that stuck out to me was whoever wins that gets the job.
I can definitely see High Point winning that game.
I could too. And the thing is what's so weird about that is I don't know how much this plays a factor, but that is they're playing that game starts at noon. It's almost 1:00. It's like the second game of the slate on Thursday. And that the whole country's watching at that point.
Yes,
they're always watching.
Of course.
When Purdue was upset by Fairleigh Dickinson 2 years ago today, actually, the whole country was watching. It was the primetime slot there on Friday night.
I don't remember that one.
You don't remember that one?
No.
Do you try to forget it?
I don't know what you're talking about. There's actually about 10 of them. Grant.
Yeah, I bet. See, missing the term as an IU fan is better than being a Purdue fan.
The Little Rocks and the
you were there, weren't you?
I was. Yeah. I was in Denver for that one.
But I wouldn't be surprised if High Point upsets Purdue. I'm telling you, I would not be at all shocked if Gonzaga beats Houston in the second round, if that were to happen. I think another sleeper upset is Troy beating Kentucky. I think Kentucky's overrated.
Absolutely,
like, no question about it. And I think the best opportunity for a 15 seed to beat a 2 seed is Wofford in Tennessee, although Tennessee is really stinking good.
They could make a run through the tournament for sure.
They could.
But I believe that Houston is the best team in the entire country. That's going to be my pick to win it all.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
For this region, I'm picking Clemson to come out of it. I think that's a shocker.
You like their path?
Four. I do like their path. I like Clemson to come out of that and go to the Final Four.
And who do you think will be your top picks to win the national championship?
Like I said earlier, if Flagg is healthy for Duke, I think they win the national championship. If he is not healthy, I like Auburn to win the national championship. And they could be playing Alabama. I mean, that's a very good possibility. My Final Four, as of what we're picking here, Auburn, St. John's, Duke, and Clemson. Not real of a chalkboard Final Four, but
nope.
I will say this finally. If you have filled out an NCAA tournament bracket, and if people are listening and they haven't, I'd be shocked. Keep a bottle of kerosene and a few matches close by because you're going to burn that bracket maybe after the very first game.
That's right.
Your bracket's good. You're not going to get everything right. Obviously, there's a 1 in quintillion chance, whatever it is, but you are going to you're going to be shocked at how wrong you are on some of your picks. I'm just going to say it. That's why this tournament is so great in terms of that you never, ever know when something like an FDU versus a Purdue is going to happen, or a UMBC Virginia, or whatever it is. Any shot, any upset, you never, ever know. That's why this tournament's the best, Greg.
Absolutely. And like I said, even my in-laws pay attention. We have the McLaughlin Family World Championship Bracket Competition, and it's been going since 2006. Barb is the queen of brackets. She won her 4th McLaughlin Family World Championship last year, so shout out to her.
Have you ever won it?
I won in 2019 and 2017.
Okay.
I am a 2-time champion. My wife is also a 2-time champion. We have lots of 2-time champions in our league.
But Barb's
won 4. No one else has won more than 2.
Wow.
And also, we've had 8 different winners.
Wow, no
since
kidding.
2006.
That also goes to show how great the tournament is. It brings people together.
It really does. And by the way, every year the Florida Gators have won the national championship. Mac McLaughlin has also won the McLaughlin Family Championship. So he has a chance again this year.
Good.
He had a really good year when Florida Atlantic made their long run.
Really?
When Florida Gulf Coast made their.
So
if it's a Florida team, he's picking them to win. So.
Let me guess, they live in Florida.
They used to.
Okay.
He's from Florida.
Okay.
They live in
I gotcha.
Sellersburg, Indiana.
Yep.
The hometown of Trey Kaufman-Renn
in Silver Creek High School.
And Steve Green.
An
all-time
I know Steve Green is. Yep.
That's right. Thank you so much, and I think you and I are going to be talking tournament pretty much every day coming up. And you are going to be going to the tournament tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be in Dayton tomorrow night for Alabama State and St. Francis, the 2 16 seeds, and then the one that really attracted me to this was North Carolina and San Diego State playing. Those are 2 teams that in the last 3 years have played in a national championship.
That's
and they're playing in the first 4 now. Not
2
the
great
final
programs
4.
at this point.
2 really good coaches as well. It's going to be fun.
You talk about the nicest guys in the world. We were talking about that.
I've met Hubert Davis. I've never met Brian Dutcher, but I've seen he's a great guy.
Is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I really would like to meet him. And I have a ticket for Wednesday, the 2 games there, which is Xavier and Texas, which will be a home game for Xavier, just 45 minutes from the campus there in Dayton. I don't think I'm going to go. I'm looking to get rid of that ticket, but it's going to be.
Anybody looking to go to the first 4, get a hold of Grant Shouse.
It's free, by the way. It's free. I'm giving it away. It's free. It's my good deed here. Someone wants to go to the NCAA tournament, hit me up. I got you a ticket.
Message on Twitter or what?
Twitter, Facebook, Grant Shouse. Twitter handle at Shouse_Grant. Shouse spelled SHOUSE_Grant. Shoot me a message if you want it.
There you go, everybody. Thanks, Grant. Enjoy the tournament.
Yep, thanks,
like
Greg.
I know you will.
This is March.
Thank you so much to Grant for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report once again. Hard to believe for his age, all the knowledge that he has, and what we really love is his passion for college basketball. He is a welcome addition to the team. Of course, IU, at least it has been reported that IU has a new basketball coach. We'll get Grant's opinions on that later in the day. We'll also get Michelle Garman's opinion on that, and we'll have Michelle Garman's IU Women's Basketball Tournament preview coming up soon. We thank you for listening. If you're interested in the Central Indiana Sports Report continuing to grow and thrive, please share these episodes with your friends and family. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.